Hello, this is Kevin D McElroy, and this is segment number 3 of telling you how many times I've died. Well, or almost died. This one here, I did die in this one. I had a 4-wheel drive truck with big mud tires on it to where I had to step up to get in it like 3 foot off the ground. Well, I heard about these deer in the Ozarks on this conservation land coming out at night, and I wanted to film them because I had a video recorder. Now, I usually always take my .22 pistol with me, and I smoked marijuana for medicinal reasons, and I had pills. Well, there was a pipe fitting that I put my pipe in, and only one person knew it, and the same person knew about my pistol. My wife, I'll just say ex-wife, thank you very much. Glad on that note. But on the way to the Lake of the Ozarks, I stopped and don't know why, I don't remember. And I couldn't get my truck to go forward or backward except like 6 inches or 12 inches for forward and backward. Well, this went on all night, and finally, right before daylight, as the day was dawning, I got it to go. Got it to a gas station. Man said, "Your transfer case is trying to lock up. Your transfer case runs your front wheels on your 4-wheel drive pickup." Not a good thing for it to lock up on. Well, I was driving down the road. All I wanted to do is get to that conservation place and get some sleep. Well, I'm running 80 mile an hour in a 55 zone, have my pipe and my medicine. Get pulled over by a state trooper. He has his pistol drawn and says, "Get out of the vehicle with your hands up." So I do. He goes, "Spread them." So I do against the deal. And he had the hammer back and he was shaking. He goes, "Where's the pistol at?" I said, "I have one. I left it at home." He reaches in with one hand, pulls out the pipe fitting and had my pipe in and said, "What's this?" I said, "That's my marijuana pipe." Well, I said, "Would you please put the hammer down? You're scaring me," because he was. So he finally put the hammer down. He pulled out a pair of nunchucks. He says, "What are these for?" I said, "I'm into martial arts." He goes, "So am I." So he chilled out and we sat down in the car and he goes, "I have to write you an 80 mile an hour speeding ticket and a drug paraphernalia ticket." He goes, "But I'm not going to give you a ticket for not having your meds in the bottle." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's a Class A felony if you don't have them in the bottle. That's mandatory 10 years in prison right there." So he should have took me to jail, but he didn't. Well, after he let me go, I traveled on down the road, and it was a curvy road. Next thing I remember, waking up in the hospital. Well, what happened was, my transfer case locked up, yanked me into the other lane. I hit another car head on, ramped over it. I went through the windshield, and my truck was flipping end over the top of me as I was rolling on the ground. Well, they took me to when they came there, I was pivoting on one leg, and if you'll see this right here, I've got indentation through my eyebrows higher where my eye was hanging out. And I got a scar on my left knee in the shape of a cross, about 4 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. Well, the ambulance people, they called my family because, I died on the route to the hospital, but they brought me back, or I should say God brought me back. The hospital called my family and said he won't be alive by the time we get down there. Well, my mom, bless her heart, started a prayer chain. And if you don't know what a prayer chain is, she started calling all the churches around that she could think of. My dad, my younger brother, and a friend of mine got to the hospital. They said that my head was the size of a watermelon, and they watched it in 4 hours just go, except for a little bit of swelling from the surgery. I was out of the hospital in 3 days. They wanted me to sit on it. I said, "No, I'm going home." So I went home. But I had a leg brace on from my ankle to my hip. They said, do not walk on it for 8 weeks, but come back in 2 weeks for a checkup. 10 days after I was out of the hospital, I was walking around my house without my crutches. At my 2 weeks doctor appointment, I walked in and carried my crutches and leg brace in and put them where they wanted me to sit. They said, what are you doing? I said, it's healed. They said, that's impossible. They x-rayed it, and guess what? It was fully knitted in 2 weeks' time. Now, they hadn't seen things like that since biblical days. Well, they poked and prodded on me for 4 hours. They even double-checked the date of the accident. Finally, I said, my time's as valuable as yours, and you can't take credit for what God has done. And I left them with their mouths hanging wide open. Well, no charges ever showed up from that state patrolman because he knew he was in deep doo-doo for not taking me in. Well, what happened is after I got healed up, I went and looked at my truck. And here's where the discrepancy about seat belts unfold. I used to be a bow hunter, and I used 1.5 foot long stakes for steps to nail into trees. I could look over the top of this truck that was so high, and I'm only 5'5", and I could see across the top. It was smashed down, but the windshield was laid out, meaning I had to have went through it, because in the steering wheel and in the seat were them 12-inch to 18-inch spikes. I'd have been crushed, and I'd have been a shish kebab. Dead for sure. Well, that's the story of wreck number 2. And how I died, and God brought me back through the power of prayer. This is segment 3. This is Kevin D McElroy, author, comedian, motivational speaker. What I'm doing now, an evangelist. I love you, God loves you, and Jesus loves you.